Well, hello and welcome, rookie card collecting friends. This video is going to be a full recap of my experience over at the 43rd Annual National Sports Collectors Convention held in Rosemont, Illinois. And my friends, I can start by saying this. I am typically somebody who is very articulate with words, especially if I'm writing. But I can tell you that this year's National, I am at a loss of words. I really cannot find the adjectives or the proper way to really explain all of it, but it was an experience. It was an event unlike no other in all of my years of collecting, in all of my years of going to card shows and nationals. I can tell you this with full confidence. This is something that I have never experienced before. It was that impactful. Now, I'm going to try not to be overly dramatic, but I think if you listen to the testimonies of others, I think you're going to find that was the case for not just me, but for like a lot of other people. The sentiments are the same. But awestruck is one word that I can really put on it that really explains how I feel anyways. And so today I really just want to, I know a lot of us have already seen a bunch of content. I have tried to stay away from content pertaining to the national because I knew I was going to come home and start making content about it, and I didn't want to be influenced or swayed by the opinions of others. But I do know that more than likely you have probably heard or seen a lot of videos. That's why I'm going to basically zig when everyone else is zagging. And my focus today is going to typically just be my experiences, and just I want to share with you day by day kind of what I saw, what I experienced, and that sort of thing. So let's get started. Day one of the national, it was the short day, right? Wednesday. It typically opens at 4 and it ends at 8 p.m. This day was for me. I came in just trying to just take it all in, right? I opened up the map on my phone and tried to really just get a lay of the land, just kind of get the feel of the vibe in the place, and that was kind of day one, just to walk around to feel things out. I also just decided to attack the bargain boxes only because I know that they're going to be stacked and the good stuff is going to probably be less and less as the week progresses, where I heavily focused on eBay arbitrage opportunities, and that was kind of where I spent a couple of hours there. I ended up leaving because I ended up leaving a little bit early because I did have dinner reservations over at Harry Carey's with the Hobby News Daily crew. We had a great meal, a lot of laughs and a lot of good conversation, and just really reinforced the camaraderie between us. And so really enjoyed Wednesday night. But after dinner on Wednesday, I ended up coming home, and it took me about an hour and 10 minutes. Wasn't too bad, but I slept quick and got up, and I headed back to the national on Thursday morning. I got there around 9 o'clock, and my first order of business, well, I wanted to shop for some Roberto Clemente cards that I needed, more specifically the 1956 tops. And I got a little discouraged on Thursday because the Clemente cards that I was really needing, I only need 6 to complete the set registry. But they seemed to be a little overpriced, in my opinion. And it could be just because it's Roberto Clemente. It could be because it's early on in the show and dealers are not real flexible too soon. And all of this can be just my opinion, my take on it. But I've done my homework on the cards that I was looking for. I knew what high prices were, what low prices were, and I knew the average price where this card has been selling in the last 90 days. And I was just not willing to pay, upcharges. And I understand that dealers have expenses and all of that. And I get that. But when we're talking, for the 1956, specifically the 1956 tops that I was shopping for, when you're talking a markup of 20 to 50%, and in some cases even 100%, I'm not willing to do that. I found myself, I've made too many sacrifices, and I've worked too hard, and I've come to the national with a specific amount of money and a specific game plan. And I wasn't going to flex on that. I wasn't going to just pay extra just to say I got a cool card at the national. And so I stood my ground, and my thought was that, hey, maybe by Saturday, right, prices will soften, dealers will come down some. And so I went ahead and just took a step back from doing the Roberto Clemente cards. But Thursday afternoon, I went ahead and got an in-person autograph of Roger Clemens over at the TriStar booth. I'm actually going to do a separate video on my entire experience with TriStar and getting Roger Clemens's autograph. So stay tuned for that sometime here in the near future. And that's where I spent most of my afternoon. And then I decided to also shop for bargain slabs. I love bargain slabs, right? A lot of it, though, unfortunately, was a lot of ultra modern basketball, and I don't know that market very well. And if I know some kids that are probably sleepers, I probably should have done some homework before I went in looking at bargain slabs. But I did pick up some stuff on the bargain slab side of things. I'll sit there, and if I just find one card, to me, it's worth it. But I'm going to do a separate video also this week, specifically on my pickups. So I don't want to get that mixed up with what I got going on today. Today is just like a total full recap of the show. So on Thursday, I left the show about 4 p.m. I went ahead and got to my hotel room, checked in, and kind of settled and got organized, because I knew I was going to be spending a couple of days there. Kind of sat down, relaxed a little bit, and settled my excitement a little bit. And I headed off back towards the National to attend the YouTube meet and greet over at the Embassy Suites hosted by Mike Moynihan. We had just a fabulous time at the YouTube meet and greet, as you can only imagine. The excitement I would say there was probably over 200 people there. We just had a great time, got to meet a lot of people. And it's one of them things where the highlight of it for me, to be honest with you, is a T-shirt that Eric Those Back Pages was wearing. I actually did a little video clip on it. Let me show you this clip and we'll come back. So I am here with my man Eric from Those Back Pages. Look at this shirt, folks. Is this not the most classic thing you have ever seen?
Ban the logo. Ban the logo. Ban the logo.
Is that not hilarious, folks? I'm telling you, when I saw Eric in that T-shirt, I about lost it. That was the funniest thing. I actually invited him. I would love for him to come on the show. We're going to do an episode in the future. And we're going to specifically talk about that T-shirt and what that means to him. But we also had somebody anonymously bought some pizza for the YouTube meet and greet. That was different. That was a nice touch. And I know it was anonymous. It was purchased anonymously. Me personally, I seem to think that was done by Dr. James Beckett. He was there along with Rich Klein and many others, but something tells me that Dr. Beckett was behind that. So. Woke up Friday morning, showered up, ate a good breakfast downstairs at the hotel, headed off to the back to the National. But then something really, really interesting happened to me. And I actually recorded a video clip, but I did not have a way to upload it to my YouTube channel from my phone. Apparently, you can't do that. You have to go live if you want to use your mobile phone, but I did not know that going in, but I did make a video on it. Let me show it to you here. Hey, morning guys. Day 3 of the National, Friday morning, headed to the Rosemont. Just wanted to real quick tell you a crazy story. So I got up this morning. I got up early and I started getting ready and got everything, my bag, cleaned out my bags, organized my cards. Really did a lot of prep work, did what I typically do right before I leave, phone, wallet, keys, and I head out realizing that I got to get gas and I've got to get some fresh ice and some more water for my cooler. So I'm at the gas station, I do my thing, I'm paying for everything, and I'm halfway now to the Rosemont, and I realize that I left my money I don't have my money. And so I'm frantically looking all over my car for the money, and I'm like, oh my goodness, don't tell me. And sure enough, I left it back at the hotel room, so I had to make a beeline back to the hotel room. I'm getting ready to pull into the parking lot here, so it might get a little dark. But I'm heading back into the hotel room. I get there, and I am looking all over the place for my money, cannot find my money. And it got to the point where I started to panic, and I'm like, I even like start praying, right? I'm like, oh Lord, please help me find this money. And I am about losing it, folks. And I end up going into my laundry bag, and sure enough, I had left the money inside of the pants that I wore last night. And I was like, whew, my goodness. But you talk about frantic. And then so now I'm headed back to the National here and see what today brings. I'll get into more details later, but I just wanted to check in and just say hello, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye. So once that debacle was settled, I headed back into the National, and my first order of business on Friday was going back to Roberto Clemente vintage cards, the 6 cards that I need for my set registry. And unfortunately, it was a no-go. Let me be clear about something. It's not that there wasn't any there. There was plenty there. A lot of it, in my opinion, is with Roberto Clemente's basic set registry, I am extremely picky. If you look at the other cards that I have on that set registry, they're very nice copies. And I'm just a little over the top when it comes to the condition of these cards. I want them to be the best cards that I can afford, number one, but within that range, I want it to be the best looking cards. So, I did find a PSA 3 that was really, really nice. The centering on the front was like 70-30, maybe even 80-20. And if you know me, you know that centering is perhaps the most important thing for me. Centering and then focus. But the thing is that a PSA 3 is averaging somewhere between $300 and $400, and they were wanting $750 for this PSA 3 only because of the additional eye appeal. Now, it did have eye appeal. It was a gorgeous 3 with the exception of the centering. And I was willing to get it because it was that nice. And I was willing to overpay, knowing that it was massively overpriced. But, they wanted to come down very little. And I said, no, thank you. I had to pass on it. I just couldn't do it. And I ended up finding another one. It was an SGC 6, and they were asking $600 for it. And it was in pretty good condition. I kind of regret letting that one go. And I didn't, only because, I asked if they would be willing to come down, and the response was, I'll come down $10. And that just was not good enough for me there. In an SGC 6 is right around $450 to $500. That's what they've been selling for the past 90 days. And I wasn't going to do it. I actually went back to get that card, that SGC 6, and it was gone. And I circled back to that other guy with the PSA 3, and it was gone. So, the Roberto Clemente vintage stuff was overpriced, but it was moving. So I can't blame the dealers. I can't blame. That's just the market. The market has spoken, and that it is what it is. But I also found that even for the rookie cards of Hall of Famers. Now the stuff in the '70s wasn't priced all that bad, but the early stuff from the '60s, they weren't coming down very much. The dealers knew what they had. They knew what was going on around them, and they weren't moving very much. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them one bit. And by this time, it's Friday afternoon, and I'm starting to get like a little concerned, even a little discouraged with getting something for my Clemente set registries. It was kind of disheartening a little bit because I felt I was going to make good progress there at the National. And so I just went back Friday afternoon and started looking at bargain bins again for certain slabs. I started looking at maybe my other PSA set registries, like the top 100 of the 80s, that sort of thing. I was looking for some Kobe Bryant rookie cards. I didn't really see too many Kobe's, at least not the two that I need. And so kind of struck out there. I also, towards the end of the evening, my feet were hurting, that kind of thing. So late afternoon on Friday, I just went back to the bargain boxes, the dollar boxes, and that, just to get off my feet and, get a little bit of rest. I can tell you that the equipment that I purchased, which that little stool that collapses, was an absolute clutch. It came in clutch. Not only was it clutch, it was very, very popular. Every time I busted that thing out in the middle of a line, I had people just, going crazy, saying, "Man, dude, that is a good idea." And as we're standing in line waiting our turn, everybody's getting antsy, everybody's in pain. And I would just pop open my chair and have a squat, and that bag that I had with that water bladder. Oh my goodness, did that thing come in clutch? I cannot. It kept the water cold, it kept the water fresh, and it was right here hanging off my shoulder whenever I wanted a drink. So those two pieces of equipment are clutch. They came in clutch. The only downfall was, I did not have a lot of room in my backpack. My backpack was simply a survivor backpack. And that's with the chair, the water, and the snacks. It was pretty much full, and I couldn't fit many cards in it. But I did take a bag, a handheld bag that I borrowed from my wife, that really did the job very nicely. I actually told her, "Hon, I don't think you're getting this bag back, because this bag it's well built, and I was able to put hundreds and hundreds of top loaders in it, and that thing held up very, very nicely." So I do recommend a secondary bag if you're going to be shopping in bulk cards. Other than that, Friday night was really, really busy. I ended up going to the PSA party, but once I got in, mingled, looked around, had a really great time. Rich Klein, Danny Black, John Newman, Logan, a lot of my friends from the Hobby Hotline crew was there. It was about a 35-minute drive away from the hotel room. And it was in Evanston, Illinois, and you had to drive quite a ways to get there. And I thought the GPS led me to the wrong place. That's kind of how taken back I was by it. Nat Turner was there as well, and we had a lot of really good food. It was finger food, but it was really, really good food. And they had open bar concept for everybody, and had a great time. After that, I headed off to the Crown Plaza to the trade night hosted by the Wolfpack. That's Rob over from a Sports Card Therapist, and Cousins Collectibles, my man Tony and Oz. I really wanted to meet them in person. I wanted to go support them. They had a really nice trade night. There was a lot of people there, and it was just a really They had a live DJ going on, and it was just a really nice vibe going on in there. A lot of activity, a lot of trading, and man, what a good thing they ended up throwing that night. It was great. And I stayed there just a short while because I don't do any trading. I just wanted to come by and be cordial and to the content creators that I know there. But I ended up going to the trade night over at Lowell's, hosted by Filmington and Mike O. That was an absolute that was chaos. I'm going to show you a couple of clips here so you can see what I'm talking about.
Overloaded circuit breakers, I don't know. Crowd control, perhaps.
Extremely packed full of people. I have never, it was, the staff for that place, I just felt so bad. They were literally running back and forth, the staff. The parking situation outside was in shambles, and it was one of them things where I could not find the meet and greet. I didn't know where everybody was at. There was just that many people there. I'm thinking, are they on a different floor? Are they? There's no way I'm going to find them here. And I ended up at one point the lights went out, and it was so cool because they were trying to do it for, I guess, crowd control, trying to tell people you got to leave. And they ended up having to call the police, and I don't know who else was there, but they were escorting people off the property and just kicking everybody out. But they were doing crowd control with the lights. They would cut the lights out. It would go like completely dark, and you would hear the crowd kind of go, oh, and then the lights would come back on, and then everybody would cheer. And it was just, it was so hilarious. And then when the lights would come back on, some people would start chanting, trade night, trade night, trade night. It felt like a college dorm in that place, I tell you. But what an excitement! It just throughout the whole thing was pretty crazy. I did end up finding the guys at the bar, and that's where the meet and greet was at, and just ended up meeting a ton of awesome people there. And it was pretty cool. Headed back to the hotel room, called it a night. Saturday morning, I headed back to the National. This time I was concerned and focused. I had to find me the card, right? I was to the point where I had come to my mind that I'm going to go home with money. I still had more than half the money that I came with. And it was one of them things where I had settled in my heart and mind that, hey, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to overspend. If I have to, I'll go home with money because I've worked too hard for this money that I have. But I went in, I did end up finding some really nice cards that I will show to you in another video. I wanted to bring attention to the traders. And I really do think that the National Committee is going to have to do something about the trading that's going on, because the trading is just like everywhere. And I love the concept. I don't want to like disrupt that flow or that excitement. But at the same time, it's a little unsafe and a little inconvenient because it just happens like right in the middle of the floor. But there is just hundreds, if not thousands of people trading right there in the middle of the floor. And here's the thing, guys. The majority of it was kids. Okay. When I say kids, I'm an older man, but when I say kids, I'm talking about ages, let's call it ages 10 to 25. That was primarily the age range. But let me tell you also, there was a strong presence of older people also right there on the floor doing trades with these younger folks. And when you walked around through that crowd, what you see is there was every gender, every ethnicity, every age group, everybody was getting involved with these trade nights. There was a strong presence of kids there, a strong presence of women there. There was a strong presence of families, people who took their families. Now, I do, feel bad for some who, they ended up bringing their kids like under the age of 8 or under the age of 5. And you can tell that the parents were a little flustered with that. Even some of the kids were, not having a very pleasant time. And I can understand that, right? It's just overwhelming. So I think, kids under the age of 5, I don't recommend. They probably had a pretty miserable time with the amount of people that was there. And so, yeah, to me, this trade night situation is going to have to be, they did have one official trade night on the first day. But I think they need to do something like that every single night. And that way you kind of control what's going on, not control it, but you give a space designated for that. So where people can come and those types of situations don't break out just like all over the place. I didn't see much of it on Wednesday night, and it's because it was actually a place designated for a trade night. But I think that they need to do that every single day of the national, with the exception of Sunday, of course. But other than that, listen, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing. Please hit that thumbs up. Please leave me a comment. And remember, my friends, that if somebody tells you that all rookie cards are the same, you can say,
a bullshit, a bullshit, a bullshit, a bullshit.
Until next time, buenos nachos, muchachos.